September 2019, ready to turn 31 for my 31st birthday. How did I end up in Mexico City? A lot of people ask that, so let me tell you the story. So, I was dealing with a lot of stress at the time, and my fiance lives on the other side of the world. I just was going through a lot of personal stuff at that time. I always wanted to go to Mexico and experience the beautiful Baroque architecture, in the churches and the buildings, stand on the top of the pyramids, some of the oldest pyramids in the world, some of the largest too. And every time I would bring it up to anyone, well, it kind of went like this. So check it out. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, man? I was thinking about going to Mexico City. Mexico. I guess that's cool. When? This weekend? Oh, they're chopping people's heads off there. I don't know if you're watching the news or stuff's over exaggerated. People aren't getting their heads chopped off all the time, and I think this would be a good trip to, kind of find myself and just kind of experience life and enjoy it. If you do go, can I have your Xbox? If you don't come back, I'll just hold on to it. All right, so yeah, people pretty much thought I was crazy. I went ahead and booked the ticket anyway. I flew from Dallas to Houston, then Houston to Mexico City. I got actually a pretty good deal on the ticket. I think it was like $250. Unfortunately, I did get delayed in Houston for a very long time, but I still pursued and kept going. And so I flew all the way there, and I got off the plane and got through immigration, converted my money from US dollars to pesos, got into my hotel, which was awesome. The staff was just amazing. I was walking around that first night, listening to the loud music and really just taking the experience in. It was amazing. And it was really funny. I was walking around a corner, and this car just speeds by, and then there's this armored truck that has 4 guards in it, and they all have guns, and they point them at me, and I'm like, oh crap, I shouldn't have came to Mexico. And then they go off, and I'm like, oh. I never had any issues the whole time though. The people were super friendly. I walked around most of the city with no issues. You can use Uber to get around. It's only a few dollars for each ride to get anywhere. They also have electric scooters, which I did ride those quite a bit. And the markets are amazing. The food is amazing. The people are amazing. And let's just jump into one of the first places, okay? All right, so let's just get into it. Why did I choose Mexico City? So Mexico City has been on my list for a long time at this point in my life because it's close to the United States. The language, of course, is Spanish there primarily. The food is really good. I get tastes of the food in Texas quite a bit. The beautiful Baroque style architecture and the culture, the history. I'm really, really big on history, and Mexico City has a super rich history from when the Spanish, colonized it and, built all these buildings. The current culture with the music, like the Day of the Dead, and Mexico in general, I can make a whole video on, but Mexico City was on my list for a lot of different attractions and the culture itself. And I wanted to go at this point in my life. I was super stressed, like I was saying before, and doing a trip on your own, it sounds weird, but when you kind of put yourself in something brand new by yourself and you have to learn and experience something on your own, it makes you grow as a person. Like this picture was from one of the first days I was there, and look at the beautiful architecture. I did it by myself. I was listening to the sounds, experiencing all the new, voices, the new sights, the food, the sounds, the smells, the environment. It captivates you, right? Mexico City is definitely some place I definitely recommend. And let me just show you a couple things that I saw there and experienced there that justified me going on this trip by myself, even though people thought I was crazy. So, one thing you'll notice when you get to Mexico City, it kind of does look like a European city by a lot of standards, but it has this Mexican, Spanish charm that you don't see in all of the cities in Europe. And when I say that Mexican charm, like the art, the graffiti, they paint graffiti all through the city, and it has this like Day of the Dead with the skulls, and then the beautiful color palettes that they use, the bright, vibrant colors, and it just makes the city look so much more unique than your cookie cutter, place here city. And I took a few pictures, as you see here, and every corner you go around, it's just another awesome experience with art. The art is just pulls you in right away. Like you go around a corner and you'll see this just beautiful painting on the side of a building, and you're going to be staring at it for a long time. And I could have went to Mexico City and just took pictures of the beautiful artwork that I saw on the buildings. The food. So I pretty much ate street food and ate tacos the whole time that I was there. So we kind of get Mexican style tacos in Texas, or if you go to like California, or a lot of the southern states. But these El Pastor tacos that I had just were amazing. And these tacos cost, 20-30 cents a piece. Like you buy them by the five. It's made fresh. They have the limes and the salsa kind of, there on the side. And I mean, this is an actual picture of what was sitting in front of me, and it just was just amazing. There was also other food like the cups of corn and the fresh fruit drinks. I pretty much would buy something at every corner and just walk around and eat. I did so much walking, though, I definitely burned the calories. It's really easy to get around Mexico City and super safe, so don't even worry about that. The food is delicious. Some things foreigners really worry about when they travel is getting sick. I have a very strong stomach, so I might be biased, but I didn't get sick eating any street food or any kind of, food at any restaurants there. Now, I did drink bottles of water. I try to stay away from drinking the water there, just because my stomach's not really used to it. But definitely, the food is just you're not going to be hungry. Or you might be hungry when you're walking, but then you buy something and then you're going to be perfectly, get that fix. And like you can see, and you see this sometimes in the United States with the Mexican style tacos, but like this was the guy kind of cutting my tacos. And I mean, the food was just, yeah. You'll see these on corners, and then it's going to pull you into the building, and then you're going to be buying food. Language barrier, not an issue as long as you know a little bit of conversational Spanish and can point at the menus and at least read what's on there. You should be perfectly fine. Not an issue at all ordering. One thing when I was walking around, I would see these shops, and it kind of reminds you of New York City, but it kind of has this, I don't know if it's the Spanish packaging or how they just kind of set things out, but I love to see these little, shops that kind of just pop up, and they're open most of the day, and you can kind of buy some snacks when you're walking from place to place. Something about it, it's a small thing. I took this picture. I just wanted to show you guys it. I really enjoy finding these little shops and stuff and getting snacks. I think it just is a good way to experience the culture firsthand. So that was one thing, but that leads me to the next thing, the markets. So the markets are massive. You can buy clothes, a lot of really good wood craftsmanship, and a lot of like textile, and a lot of like blankets and quilts and rugs, and just very, very cheap too. I got like a pair of sunglasses for like, I want to say $2 after conversion. And there's also food at a lot of these markets, so you can buy food and kind of just walk around. The people are super nice. They'll talk to you for a while. If you know Spanish, the better you're going to be able to communicate. A lot of the shop owners do speak a little bit of English because of tourism. So as long as you know a little bit of Spanish and they know a little bit of English, you're going to find a nice middle ground. Definitely haggle. Most of the time I didn't have to haggle too much. The prices were super reasonable. What was interesting, I did see some comic books and like comic-based like figurines, like toys and stuff. A lot of those were fake. They did have legitimate ones. Now those cost a lot of money. So if you're like a collector and you kind of like to collect figures and stuff and have a hard time finding some, you might be able to find them in Mexico City. So definitely keep that in mind. And when I was walking around at night, the city's beautiful at night, but the churches at night, this was one of the larger churches near one of the main squares. When I first came up to it, it was just, kind of took my breath away. It was just, I love the old style architecture. It just pulls you in right away. Even if you're religious or not, I think you can appreciate the craftsmanship and the experience, where people are, practicing their faith. It just immediately is going to pull you in. And what's even more amazing, like this picture I took, is the inside. Now, I try not to take too many pictures inside of churches. I've said this in other videos. I don't like to interrupt people's prayer time. I usually do try to talk to somebody who's working there, or I try to wait until service clears out just to be respectful of people praying and stuff. But when you go into these churches with, the stone, you'll see a lot of like glass with, the colored glass that shows the pictures. You'll see a lot of gold and a lot of statues, and I mean, you could probably go for a weekend and just look at the churches and have an awesome experience. That's why I said I'll probably go back so I can even do more stuff that I didn't. But the churches, do not miss it. If you're going for the first time, definitely experience the churches. I actually did sit in one. I was there over a long, extended weekend. It was like a Labor Day weekend, because my birthday sometimes actually does conveniently fall on Labor Day. I sat through a Sunday service, and it was very beautiful. It was very touching. Of course, it is in Spanish. I understood maybe half of the sermon, but it also teaches you the language a little bit more too, to listen. But a very beautiful service, and it was definitely an experience that was very unique. It was definitely what I was looking for on this trip. This is a picture outside. As you can see, the churches are just, large and just right there. This church in particular is very beautiful inside. There is no cover to go in a lot of these churches, by the way. That's another wonderful thing if you're on a budget. You can, of course, make donations, which I do recommend, so they can kind of upkeep on these churches. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much freely can walk through these, as long as they're not doing something like super big, like a super certain type of service or something like that. I mean, this is definitely a way that they bring in money for their economy as well. Yeah, I mean, this picture here, they actually were having a market. This is in the main square there. I think the historical district's what they call that area. This picture doesn't even justify it, seeing it in person. When you walk up to it, it's just going to blow your mind. So you really can't tell in this video. So what I'm saying in this video, if you see in the distance, and I can maybe even pull in the distance here, the churches are actually sinking into the ground. And what's actually causing this, when Mexico City was colonized, it's kind of like this flat area inside of all these mountains. And the flat area, the original indigenous people that lived there, they made this very elaborate agricultural canal system. And if you haven't ever heard about that, definitely YouTube search that. Very, very interesting if you're into history and how areas are built. But they drained a lot of these canals out. Now, some of the canals still exist, but most of them they did drain out. So when they drained the water out, the ground was still very soft. They build these, very heavy stone buildings on top of the earth. And what happens over time, the buildings will start to sink, especially uneven. and they'll actually have like tape around some of these buildings, and some of the churches, unfortunately, you can't go into because of that, or some of the buildings. Uh, they're sinking, and some of these have sunk into the ground, 3, 4 feet. I think this picture I have here, it was almost like 2 or 3 in some spots. And it's kind of weird when you're walking down the street, you're kind of like, oh wow, that's like you can't tell if it's just how you're seeing it or like if your eyes are playing tricks on you, because like it's so just bent to the side. It's going to catch your eye when you're walking. I had my headphones in. I was like walking towards the historical district, and I was looking at this building, and I was like, is that crooked, or like have I like not got enough sleep? But sure enough, that was one of the examples of the buildings sinking into the ground, which is very unique as well. I don't know what they'll end up doing to fix that. I know it also breaks a lot of their pipes and stuff for plumbing and sewage and their like water system in general. So I don't know how they'll fix that issue. That might be something I want to research later, actually. Some more pictures of the churches. This was a picture on the left outside of one, and then that's a picture of inside of one, and that is real gold. That's one thing that's really interesting, the amount of gold in some of these churches. When you go there, it kind of feels like you're a kid, reading about like, those ancient stories of like pirates or, these golden buildings and these ancient, like maybe Roman buildings and stuff. But it seems like a fairy tale, or it seems like something so far removed from history, but it's actually not. It's the gold's still there, and very beautiful pictures, especially for Catholic-based religions. I think if you're a Christian, you could also really appreciate it as well. Definitely will, really get into that mode by just seeing this stuff. I mean, for me, I really appreciated seeing some of this stuff actually in person. Pictures, like I said, never justify this stuff. So at night, the city is lit up. This is the main historical district square. They light it up in, of course, Mexican flag-themed colors. And a lot of markets always going down there, especially if you can pick a holiday weekend to go. Look up when they're having big things going on in the historical district in that main square. The markets are probably the best thing to find there. I was lucky the weekend that I had picked, picked with very little thought. It did have a market, and I was very lucky on that. I guess that was part of the world telling me it was made to be. And, I took a bunch of pictures at night. I walked through the whole city at night and it was perfectly safe. Definitely do your research to see what areas to go to and not go to. But people are going to be helpful. You're going to see people dancing and listening to music, and you're just really going to you're going to feel great. I mean, if you want it to be an expensive trip, you can, or if you want it to be a very cheap trip, you can. Mexico City is very affordable, and just walking around and seeing the sights alone is going to be enough to really bring you in. When I was also there, there was some, dances going on. I really thought that was really cool, and I have a couple other videos. If you guys are interested in that, I can upload some more of those videos of the people dancing. But I thought that was really cool too. It kind of shows you that they appreciate their roots and their original culture as well. It's always going to be there. You're not going to miss it. And that actually will lead into the second part that I want to talk about, that I did a whole separate video part just based to that. And we'll talk about that. So this is a picture of the airport. When you do first get in, just definitely try to exchange your money when you get into the city. You can do it at the airport. It's going to be at not a good rate, honestly. They do offer some weird promotions that are kind of hard to understand sometimes, especially if you haven't had a lot of sleep, which, like I said, I got stuck in Houston longer than I was intending to. You can use Uber from the airport to get into the city. And let's just jump into the next part. So let me get the next stuff ready and jump into that. Alright, so part 2 of this is the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. Now, this is something I dreamed about even when I was a kid, to see some of the oldest and largest pyramids in the world. And This trip made all that possible. So when you see these pyramids, they're just going to stop, you in your tracks when you first see them. And like when you walk up to them, you're like. But what I will say is the Aztec architecture and history of this, where they used to actually even they used to actually even perform sacrifices on some of these pyramids, is just it's going to be an amazing experience. The one thing about getting there is it is about an hour and 45 minutes if you take the bus, which I recommend you doing, north of Mexico City. Definitely, like I said, take the bus. The bus is only like $2 one way, $4 round trip. It's going to save you a lot of time and hassle, and you're going to get to see beautiful scenery, which I'll show you a couple shots, but you'll see beautiful scenery on the way. You're definitely better off than renting a car and driving up there and trying to pay for parking, and sometimes traffic can be a little bit bad around the pyramid because people like to see it. To get up there from Mexico City, you want to find the North bus terminal. You can pull it up, you can Uber to it. If your hotel's close enough, you can walk to it. There's also a transit system, a subway system that you can also use to get near it. But the best way to get there, I would say, is a cab, or what I used was Uber, which is super affordable. You get there, it's the last stall. You'll see some pictures of the pyramids. A little bit, if you don't know Spanish, you could still probably buy a ticket very easily if you just if you just said Pyramid of the Sun or Pyramid of the, they'll know what you're talking about. They'll get you the ticket. And then when you're going to see beautiful rolling hills. You're going to get to see these Mexican towns on the way. And what's really cool about these Mexican towns is they're all kind of painted in these really pretty colors. You're going to see the pinks and the blues and the yellows. And it's going to be on the hillside as you're going there. And what's also really unique is when you're on the bus ride, people will get on at certain stops and they'll have guitars. And they're going to kind of play music, while they're on it. And it's going to really just be a cool experience to hear that Spanish music, seeing all the beautiful scenery, and you're really just going to get pulled into the whole experience as a whole. Then when you actually take the long bus ride up there, you're going to get out. I think it's like a few dollars to get in to the pyramid. I stayed there the whole day, so definitely worth the price. You're gonna walk up, and then eventually you're gonna see these beautiful pyramids. These pyramids, pictures, videos will never justify how massive they are. And when I say they're massive, you are going to just get pulled in right away to the experience. I didn't do a tour group. Now, why I didn't do a tour group? I like to stay at some sites longer than others do, and I don't like to be rushed. So that's why I did it. I usually like to look up the history on my own and then kind of go at my own pace. Now, some of the stairs are level, more like this video here, and then some are unlevel, or they're really sideways and stuff like that. If you do have bad knees or a bad back, definitely pace yourself. But as you walk up, you're going to get to see beautiful scenery, these vast valleys with mountains, and you're going to get caught up in the moment. I mean, you're just going to... That's why I didn't do a tour. Now, if you want to get more of the history and not look it up on your own, do the tour. But if you're somebody like me who, when I got climbed up to a certain part, I sat there for 15 minutes just staring off into the distance. That may not be everybody's, choice. They might want to just kind of hurry through it. I like to take my time and experience every little corner. So there's a picture of me on the top, at the top of the video. After that, I did go to, there's a museum there. Don't skip the museum. They have this glass bottom at one part that kind of shows you a whole map of the whole grounds. And there's also a lot of other cool stuff, they have masks, and since sacrifices were there, and then there were also people that just passed away there, they have skeletal remains, and they have a lot of cool artwork and paintings and tapestries and stuff like that. You can also buy some souvenirs there, and there's some small shops. They'll take US dollars and Mexican pesos. I wouldn't let them know you have US dollars, even if you do at first. Kind of haggle the price in pesos, and then say, well, how about if I give you 10 US dollars, and then they may even come down more. But definitely don't let them know and just kind of haggle. But the museum, definitely don't skip it. When you first go in to the grounds, it's on the left side. It's kind of tucked away. Don't skip it. And there's good reason for it. You're going to get a lot of the history and more of how meaningful these pyramids are. So the main reason it was really worth it, and even people thought it was dangerous and crazy, right here. This picture was something that I've always wanted my whole life. And, when I got there, it was just a dream come true. And a lot of people ask how I take some of these pictures of myself when I go on these trips. I actually have a note, and I'll kind of set it somewhere, and then I have a little pin. Or once in a while I ask tourists, if they'll take pictures of me. But that is one thing. People always ask, why do you have a note? Why do you need such a big phone? I love the pen. I use the stylus all the time, and it can also take really cool pictures like this one here. But this was just a dream come true. So let me jump into the next part here. I'm going to go up to the big screen, so wait for me. Here we go. So the long story short, don't let people say you're crazy, or, sometimes in life you know what you need and you know what you want. I wanted to experience Mexico firsthand with the people and by myself. It was a really cool soul-searching adventure for me, and when I went, I just immediately fell more in love with the culture, and I found a little bit of peace with myself. So do what is best for you. That is the moral of the story for me. And so many people told me not to do it, and I'm so glad I did it, and I will definitely be coming back to Mexico City and doing more videos. So I have nothing but love for everyone out there. Keep safe during this very tough time with the coronavirus. Peace.